I think this is a good segue to Cuomo, because the question of whether or not Democrats are going to be able to capitalize on this comes down to whether or not Democratic Party leaders really understand how the economy works and how the government can be used with people to make it better for those people. And Cuomo is considered to be one of the great talents of the Democratic Party. So yeah, they acknowledge he got a little handsy and had to be pushed out, amid the moral panic of Me Too. But but he's otherwise a political genius, and really has his finger on the pulse, and he's got his fingers on other things too. But so he's the guy. He's one of the guys that is supposed to be able to channel this kind of populist energy, and he phoned it in the primary, and so that can be forgiven. But in the general, he's really going to bring the heat, and he's going to show that the Democratic Party establishment, has not lost it. They've still got it. They can still bring it, and that's why I think it's important to cover this back and forth that he's been having with Zohran Mamdani about rent control. You could put up D1. This it started with Cuomo realizing or remembering from the debate or something that Mamdani had said that he lives in a one-bedroom efficiency in Queens that he pays $2,300 a month for, and that it's rent stabilized. And so he then adds together Mamdani's assembly salary plus his wife's salary, I think at like a nonprofit, and suggests that they're making at least $200,000. So he calls him, quote, a rich person. And then he says, you are actually very rich, which a lot of Cuomo's donors probably made $200,000 plus and do not consider themselves rich in New York. So then he says, basically he needs to move out of this, needs to move out of his apartment. Let's play D2 here.
Rent-stabilized units, when they're vacant, should only be rented to people who need affordable housing, not people like Zohran Mamdani. You don't need to be renting rent-stabilized units to wealthy people. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're abusing the system. I'm going to propose not rent that apartment by law, except to a person who actually needs affordable housing. And I'm going to call it Zohran's law, because it's an abuse of the system.
So he wants to make this race about rent control and rent, and so he comes out with this Zohran's law. So let's put up D3 here. Under Cuomo's proposal, when a rent-stabilized apartment becomes vacant, the incoming individual income would be capped so that the annual rent makes up at least 30% of that income. For example, if an apartment rents for $2,500 a month, the new tenant's income could not exceed $100,000. And so we can get to Mamdani's great response in a moment. But Krystal, I used to live in New York and actually lived in a rent-stabilized apartment. And one of the things you learn there is that the landlords want nothing more than to get you out of the rent-stabilized apartment, because when they get you out, they can then bump the rental price to the market condition. In some cases, it stays rent stabilized, but you have a new floor. Now it's the new market rate, and then it can only move by the slight percentage or zero if Mamdani gets his rent freeze through. In other cases, it's taken out of rent stabilization and becomes a pure market rate apartment. So in either case, the landlord wins. So they're constantly, desperately trying to get people out of these apartments, and the renters are constantly playing a cat and mouse game of trying to stay in the apartments. Here comes Cuomo squarely on the side of the landlords, saying that once that he's going to kick out people who don't meet these income requirements, and once it becomes vacant, there's going to be these onerous restrictions that you have to make, very, you have to, in New York, $100 grand, otherwise, you're not eligible for this apartment. What did you make of this? And we do want to get to Mamdani's clapback. What did you make of Cuomo's brilliant gambit here?
Well, the irony is, as I read it, Zohran's law, quote unquote, wouldn't even apply to Zohran, because when Zohran was able to obtain this apartment, he was only making $44,000 a year. So he would have qualified. And the law does not actually say, now we're going to kick out people who exceed this threshold, because that would be politically insane. Like the number of, because I mean, just think about what that would mean for your average person. oh, you do a little bit better, you get a raise at your job, and now you're getting kicked out of your apartment. That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. And now you're out there in market rate, New York City. And it's just, you've taken a step forward in your career and like 10 backwards in terms of your living standards. Like that would be absolutely insane. So somebody realized, okay, well, we can't actually do that. That would be really bad. And politically, it would be completely toxic. So instead, he wants to implement these new income standards that would essentially mandate that everyone who ends up in a rent stabilized apartment is like rent burdened, like officially rent burdened. So it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous all the way around. And, also highlights an issue, which is rent affordability and housing affordability. That is one of Zohran's strongest possible issues. So there's that. I mean, there's also just like, outside of this Zohran's law fiasco situation, Cuomo is like melting down on Twitter. I don't know. There's all sorts of weird posting. There's speculation about they may be using bots to like automatically reply to people. He's clearly brought on a new consultant team that is trying to craft this new Twitter troll persona for Andrew Cuomo. And actually, I just saw a new poll in the mayoral race, and Zohran continues to lead by a healthy margin here. This is from Siena. Zohran, this is with the five-way race. Zohran at 44, Cuomo at 25, Sliwa at 12, Adams at 7. So you can see, increasingly desperate tactics as we get closer and closer to election day, and the polls don't really seem to be moving in Cuomo's favor, and no one else seems to be dropping out. And even if they do, I mean, what the polls again reflect at this point is even if it was head-to-head, Zohran versus Cuomo, Zohran still wins in that scenario. So I guess that's why Cuomo's resorting to also desperate tactics like reportedly calling Trump and begging for him to come in and offer some sort of assistance, which I don't think is going to go over too well in the heavily Democratic city of New York City. No, and as those polls consistently show, his disapproval numbers are so high, he's got a huge ceiling. So even if he could get this mystical, fantastical one-on-one race with Mamdani and the general, get everybody else out, people don't like him. Like a decent number of people don't like him. Too many people don't like him. And you've already got a lot of people do like Zohran.
Right. And he's at 44 already in a five-way race. So here's Mamdani responding to Cuomo's rent proposal.
What Andrew Cuomo is proposing, be it the rent control he cited, the rent stabilization he intends to speak about, is in many ways reflective of the fact that I live rent-free in his head. There are important conversations to be had about housing, but this is not what he's seeking to lead. He's not looking to reflect on the fact that he eliminated more affordable housing than he created. He's not looking to reckon with his cutting of a voucher program that was then followed by a significant increase in homelessness in New York City. He's not looking to reckon with any of that. He's just looking to answer the question of how he lost. I live rent-free in his head. That's perfect. You should have come up with that, Ryan. That was there for the taking.
Like, it was right there. It was right there. Zohran's law, I live rent-free in your head. But so he got him.
I mean, I've been thinking about, in Buffalo, this tactic worked against India Walton, where she won the Democratic primary, and then the guy that she had defeated, who was the mayoral incumbent, he comes in and runs third party in the general election, and it actually works. And I think it is a testament to a very different political climate now, for one, and a sort of more radicalized Democratic base. And I think it also is a testament to just Zohran's appeal. In that poll I was just referencing, he's head and shoulders above any other candidate with independent voters too. So it's not just that Democrats are like, yeah, we like this guy and we don't really care what Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer has to say about it. We're going to vote for the Democratic nominee. You also have independent voters who are like, yeah, okay, rent affordability and focusing on New York City instead of, say, for example, Israel. That seems like a pretty good, like, let's try that. Let's see how that works out for us. And then you also have the historic unpopularity of Eric Adams, the sort of run-of-the-mill Democratic establishment unpopularity of Andrew Cuomo, and you've got the likely result that we're going to see here, regardless of whether Trump tries to pull some funny business or not.
And I wonder how you feel if you're Chuck Schumer, and who is the leader of the Senate, not just a New York senator. He's a leader of the Senate, and Hakeem Jeffries who's not just a Brooklyn member of Congress, but the House Democratic leader. Both of these guys standing in Mamdani's way, and he's just barreling them over. They have still refused to endorse him. How do you think they are reflecting on what their position is with party voters at this point?
I don't know. I don't see evidence that there's that kind of reflection that occurs.
Like there's a new poll out that I saw this morning. It was asking about support for Israel's war effort. The number among Democrats was 8%. There's not much that gets you down to 8%. And the gap between that and Democratic leadership has to be the widest of any issue.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.